Okay, so I guess I'm live. This is my first time trying this, and I can see I can see the lights in my glasses. But yeah, so I thought I would try going live. We're gonna discuss Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I just watched it on Disney Plus. Me and my wife watched it. It was a lot of fun. We watched WandaVision together, and now we watched Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And I gotta say, I'm very positive about it. And we're probably gonna talk like spoilers. So if you haven't seen it and you don't want to be spoiled, I really don't want to spoil it for you. So feel free to go check that out. And feel free to give me feedback on this live stream because I'm new to this and this is kind of crazy. But yeah, so I saw Falcon and Winter Soldier, Last Chance. If you don't want spoilers, no spoilers, but I liked it a lot. There was a lot to like about this episode, and it's a very good first showing, a good first episode, good start to the series. Um, I don't want to compare it to WandaVision because it's very different from WandaVision, but I will say that I thought WandaVision had a very unique start, and but I also thought it was a good start, and I feel the same way for Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Wow, this is all these lights are so hot. But yeah, Falcon the Winter Soldier was really good, enjoyable. It was very cinematic to me. It felt like I was watching something in the MCU, which was very different from WandaVision, which even though I really enjoyed it, was something I think it was a very new, unique experience, unlike what we've gotten in the MCU so far. But Falcon and the Winter Soldier is something that is, for me at least, very similar to what we've got in the MCU, and it opens with a big action sequence. How's it? Well, actually, it opens kind of quietly. We get a recap of Sam, and we're seeing you hear a voiceover with Steve and him talking, and Sam has the shield, and the shield's going to be very important here as the shield's going to be very important, and we'll talk more about that. But then it quickly jumps over to action scene. We kind of see what Sam's been doing this whole time, and it looks like he's still been running missions, working for the U.S. government as Falcon, and so that's what we're seeing. And let me see. And the action sequence I thought was really excellent. It was an excellent action sequence. We actually get to see the return of Batroc the Leaper. I think it's played by Georges St. Pierre, and we remember him from Captain America: The Winter Soldier, where him and Steve went toe to toe with each other, and Steve, Steve knocked him out cold. And so he returns here, and I got to say, I liked seeing him here. It was a fun return, and it's just a really excellent sequence. I like that we got to see Falcon, and then we got to see. I'm trying to think. Damn. And Red Wing was there too, and Red Wing actually is. Let me see. Red Wing actually steps up in a big way. We get to see Red Wing, and he does a lot, and then we get to see Falcon, and he does a lot. And let me see. And I thought the graphics were excellent. So WandaVision, the graphics are excellent on WandaVision, and I thought they were more so here in Falcon the Winter Soldier. I thought they were superb because, this is a TV series, but I felt like I was watching a movie. And I thought the graphics and the CGI were excellent. And something that I noticed that I talked to my wife about that I really liked, it seems like Sam is really it seems like Sam is really coming into his own, and I've seen like I felt like he leveled up big time because you see the action sequence and you see Sam is definitely I don't I don't I don't think he has the prowess of the Winter Soldier and Captain America, but Sam has come a long way from Captain America and the Winter Soldier, where we saw him take on Crossbones or Frank Grillo. I can't remember Frank Grillo's actor, who his name is, but we saw him go one on one with Frank Grillo's Crossbones. And, even though Sam was doing his best, you could see that Frank Grillo, or you could see that Crossbones was a superior fighter. And here, I actually thought that Crossbones I actually feel like Sam's developed in such a I feel like Sam's developed into such a stronger fighter, superior fighter, and I feel like he could actually give Frank Grillo's Crossbones a run for his money. Now, I still don't feel like he's on the level of the Winter Soldier or Captain America, Steve Rogers, but I feel like I was really impressed with how much Sam has improved. And you can tell that Sam's really taken this to heart. The fact that Steve gave him the shield and intends for him to carry on as Captain America, you can see that that's weighing on Sam, and I think that's a huge part of this episode, especially when we get to talk about the end. But I feel like Sam's really taking it to heart, and I feel like Sam's ready to to step up. But we'll talk more about what actually happens, because Sam is wearing his Falcon gear at the beginning of the episode, and he doesn't don the shield or his Captain America garb if that's what happens in the series. But yeah, I thought I was really impressed with how Anthony Mackie's Sam Wilson has came from the beginning, from when we first saw him. He's definitely. I don't think Ant-Man will be holding his own against Falcon like he did in the credit scene that we saw. But yeah, that was a good start, and that action sequence, I was very impressed with it. It was excellent. And what else was there? And then we kind of move on. We see what's kind of going on with some of the other characters. We see that Bucky is actually, he's having a hard time. He's going to counseling, and we see that he's trying to live his life now, apart from, I guess, his past. But he just can't. He can't let go of what's happened to it. He's done so many terrible things, and they weigh on him. And in the counseling section, or in the counseling session, you see that she's trying to help Bucky, the counselor, and she's trying to get through to him, get him to talk to her and express what's been going on with him, how he feels. And he's very closed off, and that's understandable. But of course, she's kind of worried. She's there to make sure that he doesn't relapse or become mind controlled by somebody else who could use him to do terrible things, like like we saw in Captain America Civil War, what they tried to do, reactivating them with the journal that they were trying to get. But Bucky, you can tell he's pretty downtrodden, and we find out that he has very few contacts in his phone, and that Sam's been reaching out to him, but he hasn't been texting back or talking to Sam. And she's trying to get him to remember that his friends are important and that he should not forget them, and he should stay in contact with people. But he's kind of downtrodden. He's been having nightmares. We actually get a nightmare sequence from him where he's flashing back to one of his missions when he was still the Winter Soldier, and we see him take out an innocent bystander, and that plays into how he is now, because we see in the present day he's actually in a bar and he's having sushi with an older gentleman. And at first I thought he might have been somebody who might have fought in the war with him. We're talking World War II, back when he was enlisting, and back when him and Steve were in the Howling Commandos. But no, I don't think that's the case. It still might be, but we actually end up finding out that this older gentleman is the father of one of the individuals that Winter Soldier executed, an innocent bystander. And we learn through Bucky's counseling that he's actually going through, he's supposed to be doing something called like making amends. And so he's trying to, I guess, turn something positive out of his actions that he did in the past, the people that he hurt. And one of the things he did is he went back and he got somebody that, I guess, a senator that he helped install as the Winter Soldier. He went back and he made sure that senator was incriminated, and the police came and got the senator. But we see, and he has a little book of amendments that, or I guess he says he's amending things, and in that book we see the name of the individual that he's been spending time with, and it's circled at the top. And then we see that, well, we also see Bucky go on a date And it's as awkward as you might think because, like he says, he hasn't been on a date in like 100 years or something like that. Or it's really funny. One of the things I like about the show is that there's not a lot of humor, but the humor that's in there is just right, and I feel like it fits the tone of the story. And so that's what I'm liking about this. And I feel like once Sam and Bucky actually end up working together again, hopefully we'll get more humor out of that because I really like seeing those two characters interact with each other. But for now, they're separate. They haven't joined forces yet. And Bucky, he's just really struggling. And I think he wants to tell the older gentleman that, he, as a Winter Soldier, killed his son. And he's sorry for that. But there's no amount of I'm sorry, that can really make up for it. I mean, I know like Iron Man, he was so angry about his parents and he had every right to be. Even though Bucky wasn't in his right mind, he still did those deeds. And I can see why Iron Man was upset by that. And so, for this older gentleman, Bucky might be concerned with not only that he'll be angry, but that sort of rage or that sort of emotion could do to the older gentleman. It could, possibly cause him to have a heart attack or something. I'm not sure, but I'm sorry, got a phone call. But yeah, so where are we at? So that's where we're at. We see that Bucky's struggling. We actually see Sam's kind of struggling too, but we'll talk more about that. And we get to see kind of the backstories here. We find out, I think Bucky says he has a sister, even though we don't see her in the episode. We just learn about it through the dialogue. And then we actually do see that Sam does have a sister and he goes and visits her. And we find out a lot about their family history that, he has a sister, she has children, that the family is kind of going through tough times, especially after Sam kind of blipped out. And I can't recall if she also blipped out or just Sam, but I think they both blipped out. And Sam's their parents left both of them half of everything. So they have half the house and they have half of a boat that Sam wants to repair, and his sister wants to just kind of let go of everything because they're so behind and things are so hard for them. Sam is very optimistic. Sam has a lot of faith, and I think that also plays into his decision, which we'll get to later with what he does with the shield. But he has a lot of faith and he's very optimistic, and he talks to his sister. He's like, we should go get this bank loan and we can make things right. We can consolidate everything and we will fix this. And Sam is in her corner and Sam's trying to make everything right. And she's wary of this. She doesn't trust him and she doesn't want to go through with this. She feels she already knows the outcome, I think. And she just doesn't want to go through that turmoil if she already knows the outcome. But Sam does, being more optimistic. His confidence convinces her that they should try this. And they do go to the bank and they do try and, get a loan for this. And the teller guy or the co-signer or the loan officer, I guess, at first he's just like taken aback and he's so excited to meet Sam and he's so happy about Sam being there. But it's almost like he doesn't take them seriously because he's like, hey, like y'all don't have 5 years of credit history. Y'all were gone for all that time during the blip. And so anybody who hasn't had credit and tried to take out like a car loan or maybe get into a house, how that feels when you're like, hey, I've been doing this, like I work, or they're like, but you don't have enough of this, or we can't co-sign this. That feeling where you get irritated. You're like, can I say that? I've been busting my butt here and you don't want to help here and I can do this. Just look at my credentials, look at what I can do, look at what I've done, and you don't want to support me. And I think, you see it all in Sam's, like the way Sam's looking at this guy and he's trying not to get mad at this guy, but you can tell he's seething. His blood's kind of boiling because he's very upset. Like he's like, hey, look at this paperwork, like really look at it. And the loan officer's just like, no, you don't have enough of this. You've been gone for 5 years. You don't have any credit. Your credit's awful. Like, how can we give somebody this loan who's been gone for 5 years and doesn't have any employment history. And of course, this upsets both Sam and his sister. And his sister's just kind of really upset about it. They end up leaving, and Sam still being the optimistic person that he is. And I think that's kind of like one of the reasons Cap has so much faith in him is because Sam is very optimistic. Sam has a lot of faith in himself and what he can do. And Sam, even though this is a setback for them, Sam hasn't given up. He's like, no, we'll go to every bank. We'll make this work and we'll make this happen. And his sister's like, no, I don't want to go through this stuff again. And I get, like I said earlier, if you've been in that position where you went out to apply for a bank loan, or you needed to buy, you want to try and buy a car, or you wanted to get a loan for a house and you were denied, and you have all this stuff saying, hey, I'm good, I can do this. And you still get denied. Like, that feeling, that awful feeling of like, like you need to just, like help me out. And it's an awful feeling, but Sam, being the optimistic person that he is, he doesn't give up. And he's like, okay, we're going to have to come up with a different strategy. We'll figure out something. And that's kind of where that leaves off for the moment. We also get some scenes of Sam like in their boat trying to fix it. And one of the things I thought was really interesting here and really cool in this show is that we actually see Sam, he's working on Red Wing. Like, Red Wing gets damaged in the opening sequence where they're flying around. And then we actually see Sam, he's actually taking the time to work on it himself. And we know Sam's a bright guy. He's an Air Force guy. And I'm pretty sure he's Air Force, or I'm pretty sure he says he's Air Force. I can't remember if he's like a PJ or a Paramarine or something like that. But we know he's a smart guy. But I just like seeing him that, like, he actually says, no, like there's another guy there who offers to assist him with the repairs. And Sam's like, no, I'll work on this myself. Like, he has a lot of faith in himself and his abilities. We also see him later actually manually himself working on the boat, trying to fix it, trying to repair it. And I thought that was interesting. It gives a lot of insight without dialogue, and just action and visual cues. You get to see more of Sam's character, and you see that he is very driven, very motivated, very intelligent. And I think these are all qualities that Cap saw and Cap's known all along. And I think his quiet optimism and his determination are what really led Steve to deciding, like, hey, I want you to have the shield. But it's cool that we're seeing that in this show, and they're not outright saying it. We're seeing these actions. We're seeing his actions. We're seeing how he conducts himself, how he carries himself. And I really like this. I feel like Sam, whether he sees it or not, I already feel like he actually he's definitely giving off vibes of like he can wield the shield I know, like I've read the comics. I know he does become Cap in the comics, and I know that's what they're building to here. But before, I wasn't quite sure like if he was ready for it. I don't quite know if Sam was ready for it, but now I really feel like he is, and I was really impressed with Anthony Mackie's performance, and he was very stoic in this episode, and I actually liked it. Like, I feel like even if he's doubting himself or doesn't quite feel like he's ready, I think he is, and I think by the end of this series, he's really gonna fully grow into that, and I think Bucky will also see that too, and definitely together they'll be a really powerful force. But what else happened? There's more to talk about. Like, we haven't even got to the main part yet because there's a lot, but I'm just kind of breaking it down and we're going through it piece by piece. We also see kind of hints at the main threat, the Flag Smashers. We kind of get that their modus operandi is that they maybe like things before the blip, or they like things before everyone came back. They like things how they were after the blip. And so they, I guess, maybe want to go back to that. They seem like some sort of terrorist organization. And we get kind of glimpses of that. One of the characters that Sam is in contact with, one of his friends and allies, I didn't quite get what sort of military unit he was with. Um, but he definitely seems like he's in counterintelligence, and he's going out and he's trying to track down the flag smashers. And we get to see that this group, they're going out, and he actually manages to infiltrate them, sort of, and he puts on a mask. And but when he sees one of them trying to attack an officer and possibly kill him, he steps in and he decides that he's not going to allow that. And I thought, and he said, and he stops him. He stops him, but he gets beat pretty bad. And what we see here is that one of the individuals who is a member of the Flag Smashers is enhanced. You can tell because he literally jumps from 2 or 3 stories down like nothing and lands on concrete, and he just carries 2 large bags by himself, and he just walks it off. He then ends up kicking somebody in the chest and sending him flying across into a building, like Captain America style. So he's obviously enhanced. And so Sam's ally, ends up engaging him, trying to prevent him from killing a police officer. And he ends up getting beat up pretty bad. I actually thought he might have got his neck broken by the big guy. But no, he doesn't. And they get some information on them. That very little. You don't see too much. It's the first episode. They're not trying to reveal everything. But we do know that there is an enhanced individual working with the Flag Smashers. We don't know much about them. They appear to be just sort of some sort of terrorist organization, but they are working with the Flag Smasher. Or I'm sorry, they are part of the Flag Smashers group, and he's enhanced. So that's where we know so far about the villain, or I guess the organization that is going to be the antagonist of this story. And so what else is there? We see Bucky go on a date. That's pretty interesting. They actually end up playing Battleship, which is a lot of fun. And you get to see a more lighter side of Bucky, and I like that I like that we don't just I like that we're not just seeing him angry and in the Winter Soldier, or trying to overcome the Winter Soldier's effect on him. We just see him being Bucky, and I feel like if Steve were there and Sam, they'd all be having a good time together. But no, he decides to go out on a date, and it ends up ending kind of poorly, not because of the interaction between Bucky and his date, but Bucky ends up something causes Bucky to, I guess, become upset, not intentionally, not anything negative, but Bucky walks out on the date and he kind of leaves her there. And we see that he ends up actually going to the home of the individual, the person he's been hanging out with. And, we know from the show that the man's son was killed by Bucky. And so he actually ends up going to his house and he talks to him. And it seems like Bucky wants to confess that, hey, I killed your son. I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do about it. But he stops himself. He makes something up. He's like, hey, I guess, you paid for lunch and I forgot to pay you back. So he just pays him real fast and walks off. But there was kind of the hint that maybe the older gentleman, because the older gentleman sees Bucky looking over at the shrine, and he looks back at Bucky and he realizes, maybe something has to do with his son. But it just ends there. And it ends there where Bucky leaves. Bucky doesn't actually tell him that, hey, I'm responsible for your son's death. I killed him. So that's where that leaves off. And, Bucky's just kind of hurting a lot, and hopefully we'll get to see more of him. But here's the big part. So at the beginning of the episode, Sam actually ends up turning in the shield to, I guess, the historical museum. And he talks. One of the cool things we see is that Don Cheadle's War Machine actually makes an appearance in there. He's not in his suit of armor, of course. He's not. He's just there as Rhodey. And he's there to, show support for Sam, who actually turns over the shield to the museum. And after that's done, he actually walks with Sam. And they talk, and Rhodey's kind of talking to him. He's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" Like Rhodey Rhodey knows that Steve gave him that shield for a reason, and that he has faith in him, and he believes that he will become Cap, just like Steve did. But Sam explains to Rhodey that, he doesn't, it belongs to somebody else. It belongs to Steve, like he said. And he feels like, I guess to me, the way I interpret it is that he doesn't feel like he's worthy of wielding the shield, and he still feels like it belongs to Steve. So he decided, the best option would be to give it to the museum and let them honor Steve. But actually, so what ends up happening by the end of the episode, this is kind of heartbreaking. Like for me, and my wife was there, and she was pretty upset too. So his sister walks in the room, and she turns on the TV, and we get to see Sam's reaction to what's going on television as a senator or some sort of government official. He gives a speech, and he introduces the new Captain America. Not U.S. agent, the new Captain America. And this guy who we don't know this guy yet. They just end the episode with him walking on stage as the new Captain America, and he has the shield. He has Cap's shield. And you just see Sam's reaction. It's kind of heartbreaking. I don't think he says anything. But excuse me, but you see his face, and you look in his eyes, and you see like, I don't know, you just see his heartbreak, and it's just awful. And and you see his heartbreak, and it's rough. I mean, you see all the betrayal on his face, and it's just, wow, what a way to end this episode. I thought, to be honest, that's the perfect way to end this episode, because it left you feeling a lot of pain. It left you feeling Sam's pain. And so I can't wait for the next episode, but I'd love to know. I can't wait to see other people's reactions. Like, how did they feel? How did they feel with what happened? I already asked my wife, and she told me, she was very upset, and I was just listening to her, and she was super upset. And I love that my wife actually sits and watches these shows with me, because her reactions are awesome. Like, she's not a comic book reader. She just watches the shows and the movies, but she's actually really gotten into these things. And for me, I really like seeing that. I love seeing her reactions, and I like seeing other people's reactions. Like, how do you feel? And for me, I felt Sam's heartbreak, and it was rough. And so, well, I just can't wait for the next episode. I'm just thinking to myself, where do we go from here? And how does Sam, if indeed he does end up becoming Captain this series, where does he go? And what's going to happen with this new Captain America? Are they going to let him keep the shield? How is this going to work out? So there's a lot of open questions. This is a very strong first episode, very powerful first episode. And I, just like WandaVision, I was super impressed. There was a lot of great production value in this episode. You would think you're watching an actual movie in the theaters, especially that opening sequence with Sam flying around with the helicopters and dodging missiles. It was excellent. Like, this is an extremely great first opening episode, and I'm pretty excited about it. So this was my first kind of, I guess, live stream, and I don't really know what I'm doing, so yeah. But I don't know if there's anybody there who wants to discuss anything. I'd love to know what you all think. How did you feel after this episode? I hope I didn't spoil anything for you. I really don't want to do that. I actually hate spoiling stuff for people. But how did you all feel, and what did you think? Where do you think the series is going? How did you feel about what happened to Sam, having him see it on TV? Because they didn't ask him. They didn't ask him. Sam is seeing this. This is news to him. This is the first time he's seeing it. Like, they just sprung it on him. Somebody decided to take his shield, take Cap's shield, which was given to him, and they decided to give it to somebody else. And so, yeah, it's just kind of heartbreaking. So, I'd love to know what you all think. How do you felt about the episode? And I guess, unless anybody wants to talk or something, I guess I'm going to end it because I don't know what I'm doing. But yeah, thank you so much for watching if you're there, and I hope you enjoyed the video. And I guess I'll see you in the next one.